This is the second video in the core chemistry series. In our first video, we covered chemistry terms like matter, mass, weight and gravity, density, and volume. To understand compounds, molecules, and reactions, one must first understand the basic building blocks of matter: atoms. First of all, what are atoms? Atoms are the basic building blocks of matter. They are what compose the world around us, from the air we breathe to the food we eat. If you were to take a piece of aluminum and divide it again and again, there would come a point where if you divided it any farther, the particles would no longer be aluminum and no longer have its properties. The smallest particle of matter, which still contains all the properties of aluminum, would be an aluminum atom. While atoms are the basic building blocks of matter, there are smaller particles still which atoms are composed of. These are considered subatomic particles. The atom itself is actually composed mostly of empty space. However, its center is the extremely dense nucleus. The nucleus is surrounded by incredibly fast orbiting tiny particles called electrons. Electrons are incredibly small, even compared to the nucleus of the atom. They're constantly moving around the nucleus, but they have no pattern to their movement. They move so fast that they are essentially in all places around the nucleus at once, which is what keeps atoms from merging together. Because of this behavior, it is called an electron cloud. One last size reference to understand this. If you were to blow up an atom to the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would only be the size of a grain of sand. The nucleus is also composed of different particles. They are called protons and neutrons. This nuclear material is so dense that if you had enough of it to fill the entirety of the head of a pin, that pinhead would weigh 4,535,923.7 kilograms. Neutrons and protons are about the same size. However, they are both 1,800 times the size of an electron. In its normal state, an atom would have the same amount of protons as it does electrons. Particles in the atom have the characteristic of having a charge. The electron has a negative charge, whereas the proton has a positive charge. The neutron is neutral. It has no charge. Where opposite charges attract each other, like charges repel each other. The opposite charges of the proton and the electron attract each other, holding the atom together. As mentioned previously, usually electrons and protons are equal in number within atoms. This means that their charges will also equal each other out, and therefore are neutral, as the overall atom does not have a charge. Something lacking a charge is said to be neutral. There are numerous types of atoms, 118 in fact. The type of atom is defined by the amount of protons it has in its nucleus. For example, hydrogen is the simplest atom, having only one proton, usually accompanied by a single electron. Another commonly found element is carbon. It has 6 protons and 6 electrons. These electrons are held within what scientists call shells. We have now covered the fundamentals of an atom. That was a lot to cover for such a tiny particle of matter. The key points are: atoms are the basic building blocks of matter, and they are really, really tiny. The nucleus is the center of the atom and is very dense. Protons are positively charged particles in the nucleus. Neutrons are neutrally charged particles in the nucleus. Electrons form a cloud around the nucleus and are negatively charged. That is all for today, and thank you so much for watching this episode of Core Chemistry. See you next time.
冰は